Our guest tonight is Jane Sanders, the wife of Bernie Sanders, who dreams of being the next First Lady. So now we're going to talk more about the concrete jungle where dreams are made of. That's New York and the April 19th primary, a week from tomorrow.
She rolled her eyes when you said dreams of being First Lady.
Sort of. How's New York going so far? This is like a rough and tough state with media in this city. How's it going?
It's our state, you know, both of us born and bred here, and it's been amazing. It's been really good to be home. Going down to Coney Island yesterday, having so many people out there. South Bronx, 18,500 people out in the audience and at a rally. I mean, it's been fantastic.
So your husband has said, and the campaign has said, you may be from Vermont, but you're not intimidated by this. Is this intimidating at all to run here and with all the spotlight and glare?
Well, I mean, we're not intimidated by New York. We just love it. Now that you mention it, probably we should be about the election, but because Secretary Clinton represented New York, but it feels like home to me.
Just do this.
Do you think your husband has made this complaint that the process has been unfair, given the way the delegate, rules are designed in many cases? Do you agree with that? Do you think it's been unfair?
I don't think that he thought so much it was unfair. It does seem kind of silly that 30% of the votes that you need are they're super delegates. They're people that are not the voters. So that doesn't seem quite right. I know that that's what the Republicans wish they had at this point in time. We just don't agree with the way that one person, one vote.
Right.
But what would you say to your grandkids? You say, hey, Grandpa won with Wyoming by 12 points and they got the same number of delegates. How does that work, Grandma? What would you say?
Yeah, it's every state has its own rules. I don't like how they figure it out, but it doesn't quite make a lot of sense to me. But those are the rules that were set before we entered, and those are the rules we're playing by.
So unlike Donald Trump, you wouldn't say these rules are corrupt or fixed or
No, everybody does
you.
their own way. It's kind of interesting to see that it's all different state by state. I'd like to see more of a federal election that you win a state and every state has the same requirements for registration. For instance, independents can't vote in New York, and we're building the Democratic Party, and yet we're keeping them out if last October they didn't decide to run to register as Democrats. That doesn't seem smart.
You mentioned the superdelegates and the role that they play, obviously. If you're trying to sway them and bring them over, what's your message to them? What do you say to them?
Well, I think the key is to look at who's the best candidate for the general election. I mean, Bernie wins, whoever the Democratic Party nominee is going to win the base of the party, the Democrats. But who wins the independents and who sways some of the Republicans? I think Bernie has done that throughout his whole career. He wins independents everywhere. In our own state of Vermont, in his last senatorial election, he got 25% of the Republicans because they say, we know you, we trust you, we might not agree with everything you're saying, but we know we can count on you to do what you say. So I think he's a much better candidate, even predicting it that way. But if you look at all the polls, he's doing much better against all the Republicans than Secretary Clinton is.
But talk a little bit to us about your role in all of this. How you define it as someone who's campaigning for him. You're very involved, I know, in his ad making. How do you see your role in the campaign and what you're spending time on?
Well, there's about a half dozen of us that really work with Bernie on anything that is necessary, a strategic role. But it started with just buying the furniture for the office. Whatever needed to be done was done. And now I travel with him a lot, which has been really nice. And really just talking about strategy, scheduling, and television advertising.
So apparently there's one role that you have uniquely. You're the family CPA. You do the taxes.
Well, TurboTax.
Yeah, doing TurboTax. So here's a candidate who says, trust me, when I release my taxes, there'll be no problem.
Yeah.
But he won't say when he'll release them, how much he'll release, or what's in them.
And that's my fault. He said to me, we have to answer this. And I said, well, I was expecting that when they were due, we would be releasing them.
Right.
And
but how about the prior years?
Well, sure. I'll have to go back and find them, but yes.
Are they're not on file anywhere?
They're on file, but we haven't been home for a month.
Right.
So 2 weeks ago, people asked, the Clinton campaign or somebody asked, and we said, oh, of course we'll release them, and we will.
And in full, not a summary, not individual pages,
Sure.
the whole thing.
Sure, no problem.
If Donald Trump or some other candidate said, trust me, I'll release them eventually, trust me, would you say, oh, that's fine, there's nothing in them, no problem? Or would you say, we really need to see those?
I would say, well, when they're due, I would expect them to come out. Now,
But
I
they're
have to
back
tell you,
years.
every other year, I ask for an extension, but this year, we knew I couldn't do that.
So you'll release how many years?
I don't know. How many do you want, Mark?
No, I think the Clintons have released 8 or even more, but at least 8.
Well, they've been in office all these years. They've done it.
Senator Sanders has been in the House and Senate for
right, and we every election we've released them. So maybe
you'll release your whole returns, not just a summary.
We did in when he ran for election. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, we look forward to that.
I'll release this year's as soon as they're due, and can I have time to go home?
Sure.
And
we'll
then
go with you
release
if you want.
future ones. Oh, good, come home.
But you're saying there's like nothing in them.
There's nothing. We're really pretty boring.
You have your Senate income. What else do you guys have?
Social Security. I sold my mom's condo at the beginning of the year. You know, that was
But that's
about
about a pretty simple return.
Yeah, pretty simple return.
But let me ask you about, this was more on the Republican side, a kerfuffle, or however you want to describe it, about the Melania Trump and Heidi Cruz that came out with the attention that was being paid to wives and spouses. Do you think that is fair? Are spouses fair game in this?
I don't think families are fair game. I think that spouses put themselves out there in a supportive role. We're not playing partisan politics. To criticize people as they did, as Trump did for Heidi Cruz, for her looks, that's ridiculous. First off, she's a very nice-looking woman. I mean, but beyond that, it's just not nice to take personal attacks against anybody, let alone the spouses. I think it's fine to ask questions of them. If we are here, you can ask questions.
You leaving for Italy with your husband on Thursday night?
Yeah.
So the New York primary is in 8 days. You're going to spend 2 days, which is like a quarter of the time that's left.
Actually, 1.5.
Okay.
We finish. We're leaving
Thursday right after the debate.
Right after the debate, and we're leaving
Saturday.
first thing Saturday morning.
Right.
And we'll have events on Saturday.
Right.
So, I mean, we're in New York. We've been in New York all this time, and we're going to continue through the election. We've been in New York a lot more than Secretary Clinton has with her fundraising trips everywhere, many different
Does anyone in the
states.
campaign think it's a bad use of time, or everyone thinks it's the right thing to do?
Everyone thinks it's the right thing to do.
And what will you do there?
Oh, Bernie will be speaking at the invitation of the Vatican to talk about a moral economy. I mean, that's quite an invitation that you really do not want to reject. I mean, this is quite an honor, and it's something, that he feels very strongly. The Pope Francis is an excellent leader,
Right.
and that the issues he talks about are very similar to the ones that Bernie talks about.
But you don't want my Rome restaurant recommendations because you're coming right back, is what you're saying.
Right.
All right. Next time you go, I'll give them to you. Bill Clinton the other day made some remarks about when he was being heckled by some Black Lives Matter folks. And the press jumped on one thing he said. Then the next day he said, he's tempted to apologize. That's a paraphrase. Do you think in our politics, for yourself, for your husband, for the other candidates and spouses, that the press and political opponents seize on one word or one phrase too often rather than looking at the totality of what's said? Is that a fair criticism of the political process, do you think?
I would definitely say that.
Yeah.
It's crazy that the story is the gaffe. The story is the mistake.
Right.
It's not what the intent was.
Right.
And I think Bill Clinton probably regrets how he handled that questioner, but he was speaking about other things as well.
I would say that you're right, but I'd also say that your campaign occasionally has done that to your political opponent. Is that a fair thing to say, that you sometimes will take one thing Secretary Clinton says and kind of exacerbate or exaggerate its impact? Is that?
I don't know that that's true, Mark. I think that is politics today. I know I always try to say no. What did she mean? What was the context? And when it fits with the overall the overall image that Hillary Clinton is trying to project or doesn't fit with it, and then we might put it out there. But it's always in a larger
Overall
context.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come up with
Not
some
a mistake.
examples. Okay.
I mean, you might not want to go here. It may be premature, but there are a lot of people in the pundit world who say if he doesn't win in New York, it's over for Sanders, and he shouldn't go on at that point.
Well,
I mean, how do you think about this over the long term? This is a must-win.
No, and that's the question that's been asked in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in Ohio, and everywhere. So everybody keeps on thinking that, well, he can't make it. You have to remember, when he started, nobody took him seriously. The media didn't cover him all throughout 2015, and now they're starting to, and he's won 8 out of the 9 last contests. So I think that he needs to do well in New York, and I think that if he does well in New York, which is his opponent's state that she represented, that says a lot. I think what we're looking at is momentum, and we're looking at how people are feeling about him. The more, we're in an enviable position, I think. The more people hear about Bernie, the more they know about him, the more they like him. That's a really good place to be. It's unfortunate they didn't know more about him before. And we didn't decide to run until May, or April, I guess.
Super delegates from, say, Massachusetts, the State Secretary Clinton won narrowly, but she won. Should they be free to support Bernie Sanders and not go along with their the voters in their state?
My feeling is with 30% of the votes that you need, that they're super delegates, most of them have been elected to represent their state. So I would think that those representing their state would look to, when you have a very large margin, 2/3 or more, that I would think that would be a given. I know that's how I'd comport myself if I were elected.
If the state's close, superdelegates should be free to vote either way, but it's a wide margin.
Superdelegates have to use their judgment. That's why they're superdelegates. That was the thinking, that they would be able to use their judgment and make some decisions.
Even use their judgment. If they say, I think Bernie Sanders is better than Hillary Clinton, even though my state voted overwhelmingly for Hillary Clinton, you think they should support Bernie Sanders and not go with the overwhelming majority of their voters?
No, I think they should go with the majority of their voters.
They should.
I think so.
And so not use their judgment, but follow their
But I mean,
state.
I think, as I said, the majority, a big majority, but a small majority. I mean, we've tied so many
So if it's
races.
close, they should use their judgment. But if it's a big margin, they should vote with the people.
I think they'll do whatever they want to do, and I'm not here to direct them. But it seems fairer, put it that way. It seems fairer to have people, when Bernie wins 70, 80% of the vote in elections, that the superdelegates follow there.
We didn't get to talk about Hamilton, but we're going to have you back and maybe sing.
It was great. No, I won't
Everybody
sing.
should go. Better than cats. Jane Sanders says, thank you very much. You're nice to come back.
Thank
Always
you.
great to see you. Good luck.